Charmaine, and welcome to Lady Charmaine Live. You know, it's been a couple of months since I've done a couple of these videos, but you know, I was really impressed a couple of weeks ago. You know, because I'm talking to a lot of people, and we have really been going through a season of transition, a season of repositioning ourselves. Raise your hand if you feel like you've been going through a season of repositioning or a season of transition. You know, you look at your money and your money look funny. You know, you look in your cupboards and the food is kind of low. You find yourself going back to the old way of making rice and beans and red beans and rice and lima beans. And I tell you, we are becoming creative with some of these dishes that you may not have ever even had to make before. But right now, as you begin to go through this season of transition, I ask you a question. What are you doing while you transition? Some of us, we're making some transitions in our health. There was a time we felt really good. Now we're feeling some aches, some pains. And you know, the Riders brothers have been coming after a lot of us in our knees, our elbows, our hands, and our arms. That's right, them Riders brothers. You know, Arthur, bursitis. You know, some of them have just been attacking a lot of us. Some of us have been attacked with cancer too within the past couple of months. And how do you transition from being a man or a woman of faith to really having to stand in your faith and believe God for your healing? You believed for everybody else's healing, so now it's time for you to believe God for your own healing. So as we begin to make these transitions, we ask ourselves, how do we make the transition? How do we reposition ourselves after we've then lost our house, or we've lost our car, or we've lost our job, and some of us was known by our job titles, and now we're unemployed and standing in the unemployment line, and some of us have been on unemployment for a while, and then all of a sudden it was cut off. Now what do we do? How do we become creative? What are we doing? And I taught on a message, Moses, what do you have in your hand? God has blessed us with so many gifts that sometimes he begins to launch us out into the deep because we have no one else to depend on but him. So who are you depending on? And I ask you to search within yourself and find out, what gifts has God given me that I can use for the world and that the world needs? That's right. Search yourself right now. The world needs what God has given you, but the thing is, you have to be able to step out and operate in whatever it is. You may be a motivational speaker. You may even have the gift of healing. We can lay hands on the sick and they shall recover, because that's a gift that God has given you. So you may need to go into the medical field. You can go in as a CNA, an LVN, a doctor, or an RN, because you know what? If you have a wonderful bedside manner, there are people in the hospital that need that. Believe me, take it from a woman that was on her deathbed for 2 weeks. I thank God for the CNAs, the LVNs, and the RNs that would come in and that would give me hope when the doctor said there was no hope and I wasn't leaving that hospital. So look and see what's inside you. What did God give you that the world needs? And don't be afraid of it, because sometimes we're afraid to step out because of fear. Fear simply is false evidence appearing real, and it's really in your own mind because you are afraid of the gift that God has placed in you, and you sit there and you wonder, what if I step out and I'm not successful? But I say to you, what if you step out and you are successful? See, we have a fear, sometimes we have a fear of failure, but many of us also have a fear of success. We are afraid of being successful because we've always felt like we were a failure. Everything we put our hands to wasn't working. So, oh my God, this is a whole new area that I'm going to. What if I do succeed? What do I do next? Yes, what if you do? And some of us have been living in the world of what ifs. It is so terrible that we say, well, what if? Well, you know what if you didn't? And God had gave me this message a couple of days ago, what if? So I had to think about, what if Abraham would have never left his family and became a man of faith, and we are the seed of Abraham if we have the faith of God? What if Moses would have never gone to Pharaoh and say, let my people go? What if Moses would have never stretched out his rod and the Red Sea departed? What if Jesus would have never came to earth to free us? What if Jesus would have never went to the cross? What if Queen Esther would have never had the guts to go before the king? What would have happened to a nation? A nation would have been annihilated. Although Esther feared, she could even fear for her life, but she said, if I perish, I perish, because she had nothing to lose. Either she could lose her life or lose the entire nation that she represented. So guess what? Even in her fear, she had to move out. Can you imagine Moses standing there with just a rod in his hand, and God says, stretch out your rod. And you are looking at a big body of a Red Sea, and God said he is going to depart that sea. What if he would have never did it? 2 million people that followed him out of Egypt would have perished. So I ask you today, what is God telling you to do, but you're afraid to do it because you're wondering, what if I fail? But I say to you today, what if you're a success? So think about that. And I'll talk to you next week. This has been Lady Charmaine Live, and it's been a pleasure always talking to you.